Big news. Your soulmate is feeling overwhelmed with joy right now because of something you did. Don't skip. Listen to this carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now because somewhere at this very moment, your soulmate is carrying a happiness so powerful that it keeps returning to them in waves. They try focusing on other things. They try continuing with their day. They try acting normal. Yet every few minutes the same feeling returns. If you enjoy spiritual and uplifting content, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. A smile, a warm feeling, a sense of gratitude. And listen to this. The surprising part is that you may have absolutely no idea what caused it. You may think today was ordinary. You may think nothing special happened. You may think your actions went unnoticed. But something you did reached them in a way you never expected. And your heart needs this right now because some of the most meaningful moments in life are not the dramatic ones. They are the quiet ones, the simple ones. The moments that seem ordinary to one person yet become unforgettable to another. That is exactly what happened. At first, your soulmate didn't even realize why they felt different. They just noticed their mood improving. They noticed a strange sense of happiness. They noticed themselves smiling for no obvious reason. And listen to this. The feeling kept growing. Minute by minute, thought by thought, memory by memory, until eventually they stopped and asked themselves a question. Why am I so happy right now? The answer surprised them. Because the answer somehow led back to you, and your heart needs this right now. Because genuine people often underestimate their impact on others. They assume their kindness is ordinary. They assume their honesty is expected. They assume their efforts go unnoticed. But sometimes those very qualities become the reason someone else's entire day changes. That is what happened. Something you did reminded them of something important, something they had nearly forgotten, something they desperately needed to remember. And listen to this. Perhaps they had been feeling discouraged recently. Perhaps life had been testing their patience. Perhaps they had started questioning whether sincerity still exists in the world. Then they saw you or heard about something you did or remembered a moment connected to you, and suddenly everything felt different because your heart needs this right now. Authenticity has a unique power. It creates hope. It creates trust. It creates joy. Not loud joy. Not temporary joy, deep joy, the kind that settles into the heart, the kind that stays. And listen to this. The more they reflected on the situation, the more emotional they became. Not emotional in a sad way, emotional in a grateful way, because they realized something. The qualities they admire most are qualities they keep seeing in you again and again and again. Your kindness, your sincerity, your resilience, your willingness to remain yourself even when life becomes difficult. Those things matter more than you realize. And your heart needs this right now because many people notice goodness silently. They notice character silently. They appreciate authenticity silently. Your soulmate was doing exactly that. Quietly appreciating, quietly admiring, quietly feeling grateful. And listen to this. A memory suddenly returned to them. A moment they had almost forgotten. A small interaction, a simple gesture, a detail that seemed insignificant at the time. Yet now, viewed through a different perspective, it carried enormous meaning. That memory made them smile. Then another memory appeared. Then another, then another. Before long, they found themselves replaying an entire collection of moments connected to you. And every memory seemed to point toward the same conclusion. You are exactly who you appear to be. And your heart needs this right now because genuine character becomes visible over time. Anyone can create a good impression once. Anyone can say the right words occasionally. But authenticity survives repetition. Authenticity survives challenges. Authenticity survives time. That realization filled them with joy. Real joy. Meaningful joy. Unexpected joy. And listen to this. They started noticing how different they felt compared to a few days ago. The worries felt smaller. The doubts felt weaker. The future felt brighter. Not because all their problems disappeared. Because they had received a reminder. A reminder that good-hearted people still exist. A reminder that sincerity still exists. A reminder that authenticity still exists. And somehow that reminder came through you because your heart needs this right now. Hope often arrives through people rather than circumstances. Sometimes one genuine person restores more faith than 100 encouraging words. Your soulmate was experiencing that exact feeling. They were not simply happy about one moment. They were happy about what the moment represented, what it revealed, what it confirmed. And listen to this. The realization continued growing stronger. The happiness continued growing stronger. The gratitude continued growing stronger until eventually they could no longer ignore it. They finally admitted the truth to themselves. The reason they felt overwhelmed with joy wasn't the event itself. It was what the event revealed about your heart. And that realization felt priceless. Because in a world where people often hide who they are, you reminded them what authenticity looks like. In a world where people often pretend, you reminded them what honesty looks like. In a world where people often lose hope, you reminded them why hope still matters. And your heart needs this right now because that reminder may have meant far more to them than you will ever fully understand. The smile remains, the gratitude remains, the joy remains, and somewhere inside their heart, a realization continues growing stronger. A realization that began with one simple action, one simple moment, one simple choice. A choice you probably thought was ordinary, yet for them, it changed everything. Don't skip. Listen to this carefully. This message is for you and your heart needs this right now because after that unexpected wave of happiness first appeared, your soulmate assumed the feeling would eventually fade. But listen to this. It didn't. Hours passed. The day continued. Life moved forward. Yet the joy remained. And your heart needs this right now because some emotions refuse to disappear when they are connected to something meaningful. Instead of becoming weaker, the feeling became stronger. Instead of fading into the background, it kept returning to the center of their thoughts again and again and again. And listen to this. Every time they remembered what you did, they found themselves smiling. Not intentionally, not because they were trying to, because the memory naturally created happiness, the kind of happiness that arrives unexpectedly, the kind of happiness that feels genuine, the kind of happiness that cannot be forced. And your heart needs this right now because what affected them wasn't simply the action itself. It was what the action revealed. It revealed your heart. It revealed your character. It revealed the kind of person you are when nobody is asking for recognition. That realization meant everything. And listen to this. At first they focused on the moment itself. Then they started focusing on the meaning behind the moment. Then they started connecting it to other memories, other observations, other experiences involving you. And suddenly something incredible happened. The puzzle pieces started fitting together. The little details started connecting. The bigger picture started appearing. And your heart needs this right now because sometimes one small action confirms dozens of things someone secretly suspected all along. If this message is touching your heart, take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your soulmate began realizing that what they witnessed wasn't unusual for you. It was normal for you. It was part of who you are. It was simply your nature. And that realization filled them with even more joy because genuine goodness is rare. Genuine kindness is rare. Genuine authenticity is rare. And listen to this. The more they thought about it, the more memories returned. Memories they had almost forgotten. A moment when you helped someone without expecting anything in return. A moment when you remained honest despite pressure. A moment when you chose kindness when it would have been easier not to. Each memory seemed connected. Each memory seemed important. Each memory seemed to support the same truth. And your heart needs this right now because consistency creates trust. Anyone can do something kind once. Anyone can do something thoughtful once. But when those actions repeat themselves over time, they become evidence of character. That is exactly what your soulmate was realizing. This wasn't one moment. This wasn't one action. This wasn't one coincidence. This was a pattern, a beautiful pattern, a meaningful pattern, a pattern that made them feel grateful. And listen to this. As they continued reflecting, they noticed something surprising. Their perspective was changing. The way they viewed people was changing. The way they viewed the future was changing. Because your heart needs this right now, hope often arrives through people. Sometimes all it takes is one genuine person to remind someone that authenticity still exists. One genuine person to restore faith, one genuine person to create optimism. Your soulmate was experiencing exactly that. And somehow you became the reason, the reminder, the proof, the example. And listen to this. The joy they were feeling wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming in a chaotic way. It was peaceful, steady, comforting. The kind of happiness that settles into the heart and stays there. The kind of happiness that makes ordinary days feel brighter. The kind of happiness that changes someone's mood for reasons they struggle to explain. And your heart needs this right now because meaningful joy often comes from meaningful truths. The truth they discovered was simple. You are exactly who you appear to be. Your kindness is real. Your sincerity is real. Your authenticity is real. And for someone who had been questioning whether such qualities still existed, that discovery felt priceless. And listen to this. At one point, they found themselves wondering why the moment affected them so much, why it stayed with them, why it refused to leave their thoughts. The answer eventually arrived. Because the action represented something larger. It represented integrity. It represented compassion. It represented character. The qualities they admire most. The qualities they respect most. The qualities they hope to find more often in the world. And your heart needs this right now because admiration often begins with small observations, tiny moments, simple choices, ordinary actions. Yet those moments can reveal extraordinary things about a person's heart. That is what happened here. The action may have seemed small. The impact was enormous. The gesture may have seemed ordinary. The meaning was extraordinary. And listen to this. As the day continued, they found themselves becoming more grateful. Not only grateful for the moment itself, grateful that they noticed it. Grateful that they paid attention. Grateful that they received a reminder they desperately needed. A reminder that genuine people still exist. A reminder that kindness still matters. A reminder that authenticity still shines through even in difficult times. And your heart needs this right now because sometimes people change lives without realizing it, not through dramatic events, not through grand speeches, simply through the way they live, simply through the choices they make, simply through remaining true to who they are. That is exactly what you did. And listen to this. The joy continues growing. The appreciation continues growing. The admiration continues growing. Because every time your soulmate reflects on what happened, they reached the same conclusion. The world feels brighter when people like you exist within it. The future feels more hopeful when people like you remain genuine. The heart feels lighter when people like you remind others what authenticity looks like. And that realization has become impossible for them to forget. Because what you did wasn't just an action. It was a reminder. A reminder that goodness still matters. A reminder that sincerity still matters. A reminder that some hearts continue bringing light wherever they go. And today that light became the reason they could not stop smiling. Don't skip. Listen to this. Carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now because after spending hours replaying the moment in their mind, your soulmate finally realized something much bigger than they expected. And listen to this. At first they thought they were happy because of one action, one moment, one memory, one experience. But the longer they reflected, the more they understood that the happiness wasn't really about the moment itself. It was about what the moment revealed. And your heart needs this right now because sometimes a single action exposes an entire person's character. Not through words, not through promises, not through appearances, through truth, through consistency, through authenticity. That is exactly what happened. Your soulmate suddenly saw the bigger picture, the pattern, the deeper meaning hidden beneath the surface. And listen to this. The action reminded them of dozens of other moments. Moments they had almost forgotten. Moments they once considered ordinary. Moments that now felt incredibly important. A kind gesture, a thoughtful decision, a moment of honesty, a moment of compassion, a moment where you stayed true to yourself even when it wasn't easy. Each memory returned one by one. And your heart needs this right now because the heart has a strange way of collecting evidence. Evidence of kindness. Evidence of sincerity, evidence of authenticity. Sometimes people don't realize they are gathering that evidence until one special moment connects everything together. That was exactly what happened. The puzzle pieces started fitting together. The clues started fitting together. The memories started fitting together. And suddenly the truth became impossible to ignore. And listen to this. The truth was simple. You weren't being kind for attention. You weren't being genuine for approval. You weren't doing the right thing because someone was watching. You were simply being yourself. That realization hit them harder than they expected because your heart needs this right now. Authenticity is rare, very rare. Many people change depending on who is around them. Many people wear masks. Many people hide their true selves. But genuine people remain the same regardless of circumstances. That is what your soulmate realized about you. And the realization filled them with joy, real joy, lasting joy, meaningful joy. And listen to this. For a while, they just sat there thinking, reflecting, remembering, smiling. The more they thought about everything, the happier they became. Not because they were imagining possibilities. Not because they were creating fantasies, because they were recognizing reality, the reality of who you are, the reality of your character, the reality of your heart. And your heart needs this right now because sometimes the most beautiful discoveries are not about learning something new. They are about finally seeing what was there all along. That is exactly what happened. They weren't discovering a new version of you. They were finally appreciating the version that already existed. The version that had been quietly revealing itself through actions, through choices, through consistency, through time. And listen to this. The realization became emotional, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just deeply meaningful. Because they started understanding how much your presence had positively affected their perspective, how much hope your actions created, how much inspiration your example created, how much happiness your authenticity created. And your heart needs this right now because people often underestimate the impact they have on others. They assume nobody notices. They assume nobody remembers. They assume nobody cares. But sometimes someone notices everything. Sometimes someone remembers everything. Sometimes someone quietly admires qualities you barely recognize in yourself. Your soulmate was doing exactly that. Join our spiritual community by subscribing and keeping notifications on so you never miss a message meant for your soul. And listen to this. The joy continued growing. Not because new information appeared, because understanding continued growing. Every reflection created another realization. Every realization created another smile. Every smile created another wave of gratitude until eventually they reached a conclusion. A conclusion they could not stop thinking about. The conclusion was this. The qualities I admire most are the exact qualities I keep seeing in them. The moment they admitted that truth to themselves, everything felt different, the world felt brighter, the future felt brighter, the day felt brighter, and your heart needs this right now because admiration often begins with appreciation. Appreciation begins with observation. Observation begins with small moments. The very moments people usually overlook. That is why this affected them so deeply. The moment seemed small. The meaning was enormous. And listen to this. As evening approached, they found themselves feeling grateful. Not only grateful for what happened, grateful for what it revealed, grateful for the reminder, grateful for the proof that genuine heart still exists, the proof that kindness still matters, the proof that authenticity still shines. And somehow that proof arrived through you. The more they accepted that truth, the happier they became, the happier they became, the more meaningful the day felt. The more meaningful the day felt, the more impossible it became to stop smiling. And your heart needs this right now because the biggest realization of all was not about the action. It was about the person behind the action. The action was temporary. The character behind it was permanent. The moment passed. The truth remained. The memory faded. The meaning remained. And that meaning filled their heart with overwhelming joy. Because sometimes one small moment reveals a beautiful truth that someone has secretly hoped to find for a very long time. Don't skip. Listen to this carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now because after all the reflection, all the happiness, and all the realizations, your soulmate has finally reached the most important conclusion of all. And listen to this. The joy they are feeling is not temporary. It is not a passing mood. It is not a brief emotional moment. It is something deeper, something lasting, something meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now. True joy rarely comes from events alone. True joy comes from meaning. It comes from discovering something valuable. It comes from recognizing something genuine. That is exactly what happened. The more they reflected on what you did, the more meaningful it became. The more meaningful it became, the more grateful they felt. The more grateful they felt, the more impossible it became to stop smiling. And listen to this. At first they thought they were simply appreciating one action, one moment, one choice. But eventually they realized they were appreciating something much larger. They were appreciating the person behind the action, the heart behind the action, the character behind the action. And your heart needs this right now because actions reveal truths that words sometimes cannot. Words can be forgotten. Promises can be questioned. Appearances can be misleading. But consistent actions reveal reality. That reality made them incredibly happy because what they saw confirmed everything they secretly hoped was true. And listen to this. They started thinking about all the reasons the moment affected them so deeply. Not because it was dramatic. Not because it was extraordinary. Because it felt genuine, real. Authentic. The kind of authenticity people search for but do not always find. The kind of authenticity that restores faith. The kind of authenticity that reminds people goodness still exists. And your heart needs this right now because sometimes people become important to others without even realizing it. Not through grand gestures, not through perfect words, simply through who they are, simply through how they treat others, simply through the energy they bring into the world. That is what your soulmate was recognizing. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more memories returned. Moments of kindness, moments of patience, moments of honesty, moments of strength. Each memory seemed connected to the same truth, a truth they could no longer ignore. You consistently bring something positive into the lives of others. Whether you realize it or not, whether you see it or not, whether anyone tells you or not. And your heart needs this right now because many people never fully understand their impact. They underestimate themselves. They overlook their strengths. They focus on their flaws. Meanwhile, others are quietly appreciating qualities they barely notice in themselves. Your soulmate was doing exactly that. Quietly appreciating, quietly admiring, quietly feeling grateful. And listen to this. At one point, they stopped thinking about the moment entirely. Instead, they started thinking about the future, about possibilities, about hope, about all the reasons. They suddenly felt optimistic. The reason surprised them. The optimism wasn't coming from circumstances. The optimism was coming from people, from genuine people, from authentic people. From hearts that remain true despite challenges, and somehow you became part of that hope because your heart needs this right now. Hope grows wherever authenticity exists. Hope grows wherever kindness exists. Hope grows wherever sincerity exists. Your soulmate felt all three. And that feeling transformed their entire day. And listen to this. If they could send you one message right now without hesitation, without fear, without worrying about finding the perfect words, it would probably sound something like this. Thank you for being yourself. Not because you are perfect. Not because you never make mistakes. Not because you have all the answers, but because you remain genuine, because you remain real, because you continue showing qualities that make the world feel brighter. And your heart needs this right now because genuine people often change lives in ways they never witness. They inspire people they never hear from. They encourage people they never meet. They create hope in hearts they never fully understand. That is the impact your soulmate is feeling right now. And listen to this. The happiness has become bigger than the original moment. The happiness has become a realization. A realization that good hearts still exist. A realization that kindness still matters. A realization that authenticity still shines, and that realization feels priceless. The smile remains. The gratitude remains. The joy remains because every time they think about what happened, they arrive at the same conclusion. The world feels better because people like you are in it. And your heart needs this right now. Because sometimes the greatest gift we give others is not something we do. It is who we are, who we choose to be. Day after day, moment after moment, choice after choice. That is what your soulmate truly noticed. That is what created the joy. That is what changed their perspective, and that is why they feel overwhelmed with happiness right now, because something you did revealed something beautiful about who you are, and that realization became a gift they never expected to receive. Before you go, please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. May peace, light, and blessings always be with you.